It's when we do what we intend to do that we get what we intend to get. I think that a lot of us need to recognize how important intention is for pretty much our entire lives. I think when we don't learn how to move with intention, we're sort of left not receiving things proportional to what we actually want. And I don't mean that to say that if we aren't intentional, we won't receive anything, but to say many of the things that we gain aren't necessarily for the physical representation alone. Many times they have more significant, more symbolic, more deep inner meaning. And a lot of that means is the feeling it gives you. You know, how we get certain accolades, certain achievements, and it makes us feel a certain way. And that's sort of the thing that we want. Is contentment in feeling who we are, contentment in feeling a good way about ourselves. And I think a lot of us want to feel good about ourselves. And I think that's overall the main point, the main aspect that a lot of us are trying to reach here. And in allowing yourself to be intent with your actions, or at least setting intentions for what you do, you bridge so many gaps between your own judgment and your own doubt. You know, for example, if I was to meditate, before I would meditate, or what I've been doing recently is having an intention for the meditation. Like, oh, I hope to get this out of this, or I'm doing this because of this. You know, when we do things for no reason, we often get rewards in proportion to our lack of reason. Sometimes we get what we want, sometimes we don't get anything. And I don't think either of those is bad, but I think when we are trying to be intent in what we receive, it's important to be intentional in what we do. When we carry a certain desire to the actions that we do, they tend to be done more presently because we're already knowing what we're doing it for, and it's not necessarily something that's up in the air. Especially when it comes to our self-care, especially when it comes to our development as people overall, and trying to find comfort and contentment with that thing. Like when we, for example, just give a little bit of appreciation to ourselves for what we do, or doing things so we can give ourselves appreciation is also another thing. I got a question in my comments like, we're basically talking about self-love and any advice for that. And the only thing that came to mind was the fact that self-love has no condition. There are no hoops for us to jump to, and we can love ourselves on a basis of the care we give to ourselves. So as soon as we start to love ourselves and show it, we can love ourselves for the care that we give ourselves. I think that's one of the easiest gaps, one of the easiest bridges. And I think that takes intention too. Because a lot of us want to start doing stuff that's representative of the love we have for ourselves after we feel the love for ourselves. And it never really works like that. Signs don't precede, they follow. And I think when we put our certain intentions and actions into what we do, we're only left with the good aspects of that something. You know, when we leave everything open to so much interpretation that's not our own, or so much, I don't know, bias and ambiguity, we aren't really given an opportunity to choose for ourselves what it is we want out of the things that we do. And a lot of times, I think we lose ourselves in what we achieve and what we gain. Not because we don't want to gain those things, but because we think what we're gaining, the physical part, is what we actually want. We think that it's actually the part that's fulfilling us. But we all have things that we have received in the past that don't necessarily feel and drive our feelings for ourselves. We all have had things that we've achieved that we told ourselves that we would start to feel good about ourselves for in the past. And even in this present moment, we're probably not thinking back to those things in reference to giving ourselves more. Because a lot of times, those sort of things are dampened by familiarity. Once we achieve that certain something, then we're on to the next thing. And I think that's just a product of our mind constantly looking for more change and more growth. But the thing is, we don't have to do a million things to achieve growth and change. It's about what we do right now. You can do the same thing with different intentions and get different things out of them every time. If I want to meditate and my intention is to just sit there, it's going to be different from my intention to meditate and analyze some part of my introspection, some part of some problem that I have. They're going to have different outcomes. They're going to have different reactions. And until we start positing our own input on that certain something, we're sort of left with a lot of nothing. And I'm recognizing that there is sort of a shift occurring right now. And a lot of people are sort of waking up to the idea that they need to be intentional or intent with the way that they're carrying themselves, at least mentally. When we have mental intention for as to who we are, we sort of get a chance at taking up the space we already take up and doing it freely. I think a lot of us feel like there have been conditions placed upon us just in being ourselves. And until we learn how to value ourselves without labeling, then we're sort of waiting on other people to tell us that we're valuable when we already know that we are. One thing that I heard recently is that if value is inherent to us, if we are truly valuable, then it's not a quality that we have. It's a quality that we are. We are valuable. You know, it's not a matter of expression. It's a matter of being. You know, and I think that's the most important distinction, is what we choose to be, what we choose to have within us, what we choose to allow to be truly a part of us and not just an aspect of our expression. If I truly am nice, then it's not really about the label that I place on myself. That's just me trying to put a label on a specific set of expressions. But if I really am that way, then I don't really need that label at all. And the same goes with confidence. I don't need to think about my own confidence if I am confident. I don't need to think about my own patience if I am patient. And I think sometimes the way we separate ourselves from the things that we want via our words, via our labeling, sort of takes us away from it, because it makes us think that there are qualities that we have to earn, qualities that have nothing to do with us just making the decision and more so to do with some type of flow of time. Something that has to do with, oh, I have to jump through this hoop. I have to achieve these certain things before I can give myself validation on that front of who I am. But that's not how aspects of who you are work, because all of who we are is really just memories and ideas that we've attached to our awareness, to who we are, to our frameworks. You can be nice, you can be mean. Those are two sides of the same coin, and it's just about how you choose to express it. How you choose to accept how you are. And I think if we currently are unhappy or unfit for who we are right now or certain circumstances, the first step, I think, is acceptance. We have to recognize the ways in which we are harmed to recognize the ways in which we can actually heal. If we don't look at the thing that's hurt, we will never be able to acknowledge it enough to apply the proper remedy, the proper medicine onto who we are. And I think once we get to that point, it's about recognizing that you can reestablish anything within yourself at any time. You can decide now to be a certain way. And as long as you're present enough to choose that, you can be that way. And I think that's what we sort of have to do for ourselves, is be present enough to choose long enough and intentional long enough to actually allow it to trickle into who we actually are, into our subconscious, into our unthinking mind. And I think it doesn't take that much time, truly. It really just takes us coming into a realization or a period of believing that certain something is part of us, or at least feeling like it is. I think feeling is the aspect I'm missing here. Feeling. When we feel in accordance to how we are in that way, like if I feel confident, then it's not really a question. If I feel nice, it's not really a question anymore. It's not really oh, am I nice yet? It's I feel nice. And that's where it's left at. I feel content. I feel abundant. I feel this. I feel that. As soon as we're able to adopt the feeling is the second that it's actually changed. And I think sometimes when we adopt certain feelings, we sort of allow our mind to take us away from it. I think we've all had times where we felt like we were very much in alignment, very much on the path to where we needed to go. And we've allowed our thoughts and doubt to sort of take us away from those things. And I think part of that is because we weren't intentional in that feeling or in whatever we did. We let it be about a insignificant, or I won't even say insignificant, a small moment rather than the whole of our being. We allow our mind to sort of take away certain intentions at times too, by constantly thinking about what we've invested, by constantly checking on the seeds that we have yet to grow. And then in reference to the lack of growth on seeds we haven't planted, we tell ourselves that we're lacking something. We tell ourselves that we need to do this certain thing in order to feel content. And that's the whole race that they sort of convince us of. It's to constantly try to grab at things that make us valuable without recognizing that we have the value in it of ourselves. We get to decide what makes us valuable. We get to decide what we deem as valuable. And until we're able to make that conscious decision and intention with that certain something, then we're sort of left with what we're told. And that includes with ourselves. We're told that we are a certain way from when we grow up. And, we don't really give ourselves an opportunity to change until we do. And I've experienced this firsthand. Like, I used to be a lot different as a child, at least I think so. And it wasn't until I actually decided that I wanted to change, decided that I'm going to change, that change actually started to happen, until I actually made the conscious intention and present intention to actually begin to embark on that journey of my own change, that it actually began to happen. And the same thing has always gone with anything that I've done in regards to manifestation and affirmation and anything like that. The second I started being intentional with what I'm saying here, the second I started being intentional with how I receive it and how I live it, has been the second that I actually felt positive in reference to what I was doing for myself, positive in reference to the life that I'm actually living. And the second I did that is the second I actually stopped referencing my life to other people's lives and started living it from my own perspective, because your own perspective is all it is. I made a video a couple days ago called Your Personal World, because we all are living in our own personal world, and that's really the truth. You're always walking through life through a filter of what you know as yourself, how you relate to this and how that makes you feel, how you relate to that and how that makes you feel. It's always rooted in how you feel. And until we can create a baseline for our own feeling based on ourselves, we're constantly going to be swayed and ebbed and flowed by our external circumstances. And in that way, our mental will be ebbing and flowing because we haven't had any intention on keeping it solid, on keeping it stable. And the second we make the decision to keep it stable regardless of circumstances, we recognize that circumstances change. The second we make the decision to actually go out and achieve things, a lot of us notice how everything sort of moves out its way and lines up in a way that's easy. Like, if we don't know how to do something, instead of sitting in or not knowing, if we make the decision to find out, we often find the information that we need. We always find what we're looking for. And I think a lot of times we just aren't being intentional with how we look, or we're probably being too intentional with looking for something in a specific place, like looking for love in a specific person rather than opening yourself up to love from anywhere, or looking for money from a specific source, when we really just need to be open to any source that brings us that. It's always us focusing on the how that sort of takes away the true unfolding, because we expect it to be in a certain way. And via that expectation, if it's not, if no opportunity shows us a direct path to that outcome, we sort of lose our ability to capitalize off of it. There are so many opportunities out here that could lead us to the same point. There are a million ways up a mountain. And until we let our guard down enough with the moment and enough with ourselves to accept that we can achieve anything we want, then we won't really be able to do so in a way that actually aligns with our life. What one person attracts in regards to, let's just use money for an example. I know a lot of people are focused on money. One person's way of attracting money is going to be different from yours. And it's not necessarily a grandiose thing. It's just the way that certain things work. Things are going to happen for you the way that they can. And that's all it is. I think we really need to focus on our intention on doing the best that we can, on putting our all into what we are, on giving our all to the moment, and truly allowing ourselves to be one with the moment so we can receive stuff in kind. When we allow ourselves to do that, it's like we never needed anything in the first place. It's the doing that truly gives us the affirmation, not the receiving. When we give ourselves to the moment, we get ourselves back. When we give positivity and love to ourselves, we get it back instantaneously. It's never been about the receiving, because To receive is to give. It's to give another person an opportunity to, how can I explain this? Like, even when we receive, for example, love from other people, it's us giving them an opportunity to do so. And I don't mean that to say like we have to open the doors and say, oh, you can say you love me. But to say, until we open ourselves up to the idea that other people can, until we give ourselves the liberty of being loved by other people, we won't feel it from other people. It's always about what we give and what we allow ourselves to experience. And the second we allow ourselves to experience something good, or open ourselves up at least to the possibility of our own good, we start to experience it right where we are. Because it's never about how things look, it's about how you look at things. And until we learn how to feel in accordance to what we actually want, we're always going to want in accordance to how we feel. We're going to feel some type of lack in our contentment or security for ourselves, without recognizing that we're the ones who have to provide that to us. We have to be the ones to make the decision that we are secure. And whatever that looks like for you, I mean, it might be different here and there, and it might take some time. I feel like my security journey has definitely took some time. But at the point I am now, I'm recognizing that the only thing that really allowed me to change and shift was me making the decision that I already was the way that I wanted to be. And if I expressed myself in a way that wasn't characteristic of that, I forgave myself. And instead of focusing on the negative aspect of me repeating that cycle, I focused on the positive aspect of me being present enough to recognize that I did so. And then using that presence that I have to continue to move forward and make sure I'm not making the same choices that keep me in the same cycle. The only way to break the cycle is to be outside of it. And the only way to be outside of it is to make the decision to no longer take part in it. All that to say, I think we need to be more intentional with a lot of the things we do. It's very important to sort of pour yourself into the things that you want to pour back into you. And I think when we do pour ourselves into things and don't really expect them to pour back, we're already pouring back into ourselves. Because the second we allow things to not be about the outcome, is the second it becomes about the path and the journey and the steps that we actually take. So keep being great. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, doing what you can, what you have. A lot on the way, a lot already here. Books, boom, boom, they're here. ProfilePondering.com.